Good morning, friends, family, followers. Welcome to another Daily Dev. I am Luke Whyte, and I am very, very happy to be with you this morning. Guys, according to the watch, we're about 13 minutes late, so I apologize. What happened was I couldn't find my glasses, and so I still can't find my glasses. I know you're saying they're on my face. These are actually my spare pair of glasses. So that's why I was late. But luckily, always buy two pairs of glasses is the motto to the story. Today, we're going to continue with the theme that we've been looking at. We started yesterday, and we're going to continue it throughout this week. We're looking at outrage, anger, raw, unadulterated passion. A fire that stokes within us, that pushes us to question some issues, that forces us to face some of the ills in society that are around us. And with so much to be outraged about over the last 18 months, even longer, but specifically magnified over the last 12 to 18 months, it felt like an appropriate time to look at this idea of outrage, how we respond to some of the major turning points that are happening in our society and how we engage with that. And yesterday, I started by talking to us a little bit about how our initial response to outrage, our initial response to some of the more heinous crimes that we see highlighted in media at the moment. I suggested that our first response should be to take ourselves away, to spend some time really with our own thoughts and with our own ideas, reflecting on what this actually means to us. I spoke about it quite a bit, just how we can find ourselves in a place where, let me make sure the volume is up. There we go. Oftentimes we can find ourselves in a place where we don't really ever get to acknowledge how we feel about a situation or a scenario because we are hearing so many voices around us. And so the story we're looking at from Jesus' life, which I thought was quite insightful as to how we can deal with our outrage and process our outrage, was the story of when Jesus first finds out that his cousin, John the Baptist, has been beheaded, right? And yesterday we just set it up where the text, it tells us in Matthew chapter 9 that he took himself away from everyone when he heard the news. It said when Jesus heard, he took himself away. And I suggested yesterday that that's sometimes what we need to do when we hear about another injustice that has happened, something that's happened in a community that we belong to, a community that we feel affinity with. It may lead us to actually want to respond, but actually the best thing we can do at that time, when so many people are talking, when there's so much noise, is to actually take ourselves away and take ourselves to a quiet place to process how we think about it. So that's stage one. But then the text goes on, and I love it that literally the next verse, Jesus has taken himself away to process his outrage, to reflect on how mad he is, right? To reflect on how is he going to respond to what has happened to his cousin, effectively to mourn. And not long after, the crowds, the people who had been longing to hear what he has to say, they learn where he is and they make their way over. They make their way over to where he is, right? And the text says that Jesus, although he's taken himself away for this quiet time, he feels compassion for these people. And because he feels compassion for them, he actually continues to teach to them, continues to preach to them, and continues to feed them and to minister to their needs. In effect, what Jesus does after spending some time to reflect on his outrage, he effectively goes back to the mission he was on. I don't really want you to miss that, right? His cousin has been killed unfairly. The authorities have used their power. The powerful people have used their power to kill his cousin, this man of God, this prophet. Jesus has taken himself away. And then after just a few moments, who knows, a few days, the text doesn't tell us how long he was there, but after a short while in solitude, the next step that he actually does is to continue on with his mission. And I think, to me, this really resonates with me. And actually, throughout the rest of his story, you don't actually see him refer, from my memory, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't see him refer at any point to the unfair murder of his cousin. I don't see him refer at any point to the madness and injustice that took place, right? Now that doesn't mean that it didn't resonate with him. That doesn't mean that it wasn't important. But what it means is that he didn't let one or even any amount of injustices derail him from the mission that he was on. And this is really powerful, and I think something that we need to think about, because when society is railing up about any issue, it doesn't matter what the issue is, when society is collectively trying to push us into outrage on any subject or on anything, the reality is that we need to not get swept up in that. Now, this is, I want you to bear with me. This doesn't mean that those issues are not of the most tantamount importance, the most paramount importance. This doesn't mean that these issues do not need solving and working on right now. But what it means is that if you have a specific mission and you know that you have something that you are up to in this world, you cannot let the latest outrage, the latest debacle, the latest drama, the latest issue derail you, because then what happens? Well, something happens and you plant your flag in the ground for that issue. But then because of the way the media cycle and everything works, is it won't be long before there's another issue to be outraged about. So then you have to take up that flag or get another flag and plant that flag somewhere else as well. And then there's another issue, then you have to rip out that flag and plant that flag over there. And what happens is you can lose your foundation and your grounding because you're simply being swept by the latest trend, the latest issue, the latest outrage, the latest scandal, the latest trend, right? And that is not how you want to operate, especially if you have something that you are up to in this world. Now, what's interesting about Jesus' story is because I think as he sat there and he reflected on what has happened and he reflected on maybe what his reaction could be, he took note of the fact that his life and his purpose and the mission that he was already on was about challenging oppression. His mission that he was already on was about inclusivity. He looked at the bigger picture of the role that his mission plays in that bigger tapestry of what's going on. And I think that's an important point, because while we may not be able to challenge and tackle every single issue that comes up as it comes up, we can take time to reflect on, okay, what is my life about? What is my career about? How do I spend my free time? What is my life's purpose, my life's mission? And how is that contributing to to creating a better world? Because fundamentally, guys, let's be real. Every outrage, every scandal, all of these things that we see and we hear about, our outrage is because we sense and we feel and we see that this isn't right, this isn't fair. Something within us tells us that what's going on and what's happening is not the way the world should be. So somewhere in our minds we have a picture of a fair and just society where people are treated equally and people are treated fairly. And when we don't see that manifesting, it's a problem to us, because in our minds we know that we should do better as a humanity. So that means that in whichever circles, spaces, or groups, communities that you find yourself a part of, you should be pushing towards that goal where you are. You see, we're not all in the perfect position to be able to fight racial injustice. We're not all in the perfect position to be able to fight gender equality. We're not all in the perfect position to fight government overreach. We're not all in a position to fight the inequalities that's propagated through colonialism. Like, we're not all in the perfect position to fight these things, but where we are and where we find ourselves, we can contribute to the bigger narrative of creating a world that is fair, equal, and just for all. And so the question doesn't become, what color are you going to change your screen to on social media, or what are you going to tweet about? The bigger conversation is the spaces where you already are you promoting this sense of inequality, or are you pushing to a more fair and just world? Are you in small or big or larger ways perpetuating the issues that are being reported on in the media, or are you actually creating a whole alternative, a different way of maneuvering in the spaces within which you exist? Because otherwise what happens is everything to be outraged. What cancel culture will promote is for us to be outraged at what the media tells us to be outraged at any given time. But if we take a step outside of that, we can reflect on the contribution we can make towards creating a fairer and just and more equal world in the spaces within which we exist. And so the challenge today is to really take some time. Once again, we're going to be taking time this week, right? Take some time to reflect on the spaces that you currently exist in, right? Don't push the responsibility of a better world to these bigger, more grandiose issues that we're seeing all around us. Take that personal responsibility to say that in every encounter I have today, in every space that I am in today, in every space that I will be in, right? I am going to operate in a way that does justice to the world, the type of world that I say I want to be a part of. And also reflect, has my story, has my life, has my journey already been on this trajectory towards this type of world? And if not, what adjustments can I make so that this bigger picture world that I say I want to be a part of can be manifested in the spaces in which I exist? That's your Daily Dev. I'm your Daily Rev. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully 8 a.m. if I got my glasses. If everything is good, by God's grace, I will see you tomorrow. Peace.